welcome back. MTG Joe here, and today we're going to be starting our deck techs for some brews I want to try out when the new set, Dungeon and Dragons themed Forgotten Realms, comes out this upcoming Thursday on MTG Arena. And it's a set that is, like I said, themed around Dungeons and Dragons. So the first deck I wanted to try out was a Dragons deck. It is a Dimir Dragons, colors that you typically don't associate with Dragons. And it's kind of built around two cards I want to try out. This is a kind of flash tempo style deck. And it's kind of headlined by Death Draco Lich. I apologize in advance with some of these card names. They are quite difficult to pronounce. But this is a 4-mana 5/2 flash flying dragon that enters the battlefield tapped. And notably, we can cast this from our graveyard if another creature died this turn. So it is kind of a recursive threat that we can get going over and over again. A 5/2 body closes out the game very quickly, and it allows us to play, like, we can hold up spells, whether it be a counter spell, removal spell, whatever it may be, and then flash this in end turn, and then kind of play around in that regard. The other dragons we're building around is Emirith, correct if there's translations or how to say it properly, phonetics on this, let me know, but the Desert Doom. This is a 5-mana 5/5 flyer that has ward 4 as long as it's untapped, meaning that any spell your opponent plays that targets this, they have to pay 4 additional mana to do so. It's very much akin to Dragon Lord Ojutai in some of the control lists in the past. And then whenever this deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. However, if you have fewer than 3 cards in your hand, you get to draw cards equal to that difference. So if you have 0 cards, it's a draw 3 as well. So this is kind of our top end of how we play around it. And then we have Dragon Turtle. Very creative name. It is half dragon, half turtle. It's a 3-mana 3/5 flash that has the kind of frostbite type effect where it and another creature both enter the battlefield tapped. They both get tapped and they don't untap during their controller's next untap steps. So we're only playing 3 of these. Because it is coming into play tapped, it's kind of a tempo spell, but it's not something that can attack right away. We have to wait 1 additional turn cycle. And then just to kind of wrap up the creatures that we have here, we have Brazen Borrower. Just as a good tempo play, can flash in, it's another way to attack in. Kind of rounding up the deck, we have a bunch of removal spells in like Erebos' Intervention for life gain, Graveyard Hate, and dealing with Indestructible. We have Eliminate, Drown in the Lock. Because we're going to be killing a bunch of things, this is a flexible card as both removal as well as counters. We have Heartless Axe, and then we have a Baleful Mastery just to deal with Planeswalkers. We have Cling to Dust as an escape card to just get more value out of our graveyard. We have counter spells, like I mentioned, Drown in the Lock. We have Disdainful Stroke. We have Negates. And a card I want to try out that actually is kind of cool in this deck is You Find the Villain's Lair. This is a kind of 3-mana cancel effect. So at the downside, it's a 3-mana counter spell that counters anything. But it also gives you kind of that Prismari command effect, the draw 2, discard 2 looting. And this is actually pretty good because we can bin our Death Draco Liches and then get them back from the graveyard. So this is something that I wanted to kind of replicate. If we were in Izzet colors or Grixis, we'd be playing 4 of them of Prismari Command for that type of effect to kind of dig us. So it's something I want to try out here. And then finally some Behold the Multiverse. Because we're going to be doing a lot of 1-for-1 with the opponents, I opted to not go with something like Extinction Event in this deck because we are playing creatures to the board. And then finally, we have Shark Typhoons. Again, just a good tempo card that we can cycle at instant speed. And then a Professor Onyx as kind of recursive value. The top end could probably be shaved if we wanted to be more in line, play a couple cheap or like draw spells, maybe some more removal. It's really dependent on what the meta looks like. But there's kind of some options with that. Coming down to the mana base, it is pretty straightforward. We have Pathways, Fabled Passages, some Triomes, just a way to cycle. One card I want to try out is the Hive of the I Tyrant. So you'll notice I have 2 creature lands here. A Hive of the I Tyrant is one of the new lands that come into play tapped if you have 2 or more lands. But this is a 4-mana 3/3 creature with Menace that when it attacks, we get to exile a card from opponent's graveyard. So I think ultimately in control decks, Crawling Barons or like kind of tempo-y, more interactive decks, Crawling Barrens is a better kind of mana sink because it only dies to eliminate. It doesn't die to Heartless Act if you could get up to enough charges. So it can kind of play around there. And then we have one castle, Lockwane. So that's pretty much the deck. Let me know what you think, if you'd build it differently, any suggestions, anything I missed. I'm doing this on Monday, so there might be a couple late spoilers. I don't usually do sideboards at this point because we don't know what the meta's like. This is kind of the shell where I would start off with. If you're going to look for sideboard options like Mystical Disputes, maybe some more negates, another Disdainful Stroke, you can have Extinction Event, Shadow's Verdict. There's a lot of options there, things you can throw into a sideboard. But let me know what you think. And if you can, drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you with some live ones later this week.